Greetings, everyone. It's good to see you all. This is the last webinar from OP Jindal Global University's Jindal School of International Affairs for this season. We have done one before on global crisis and solutions, but this one is aimed specifically at talking about our flagship master's degree, the MA in International Relations, Security and Strategy. And I'm so happy to see a large turnout for this event. And as always, I'll request you to please type into the chat box the countries to which you belong. There's also a Q&A box in which you can raise questions while we are talking. So welcome everyone. And I want to also welcome my colleagues, my esteemed faculty colleagues from Jindal School of International Affairs, who are involved in teaching and delivery of courses related to the MA IRSS and other programs. And at the outset, I want to just remind you all, dear students, that this is a special institution with a lot of expertise and with extraordinary amount of knowledge, practical as well as theoretical. So we are the only university in the world offering this kind of degree on the Coursera platform. So those of you who have an interest in international affairs, in world news, in diplomacy, in foreign policy, in geopolitics, in military and security issues, if you're following the ongoing wars and crises around the world, and also the increasing tensions between major powers and also middle powers and small powers in different parts of the world, this is the program to help you understand it, to get deeper into this field, and to earn a master's degree. Master's degree, as you know, is a very, very specialized one. It's an advanced field of study compared to a bachelor's degree. And in the MA IRSS, we offer courses, core and elective courses that will help you grasp the ongoing global crises and problems, and also think about how you as an individual are part of a broader international system, and how the trends that are happening all around the world affect each of you individually and your workplaces and your personal lives. So we are going to be talking today about the MA IRSS, different aspects of this degree program, and also what we teach in this program. Those of you who've had a chance to visit our website and look at the Coursera page on MA IRSS probably already have an idea about the curriculum. This degree is focused more on the security aspects, but economic and cultural issues are always never far from the surface, and they do come up as well. So you will find that we have combined even the title itself, international relations, international security, and strategy, all three. It's not just a MAIR, it's MAIRSS, and that is for a reason, because it's focused on more political and security oriented topics, and this is for everybody around the world. It's open to students from any country, wherever you're from. And I'm again looking at the Q&A box and seeing the kind of countries. We have Ghana, we have Ethiopia, France, Myanmar, India, United States, Singapore, Egypt, Indonesia, Philippines, Bermuda, Belarus, Iraq, Sudan, Gambia, Nigeria, Pakistan, United States, Yemen, Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, and so on. Yemen. I'm just reading out a few of the countries from which the audience has logged in, and our student body is exactly like this, the audience of this webinar, drawn from so many countries around the world. And because admissions are still on, I believe all of you who are attending today have a chance, and do not let go of this opportunity to build your knowledge base and to get a professional degree that will help you advance up the ladder in your careers. Most of our students tend to be students with prior work experience and who are already employed in various institutions, whether in their home countries or in international organizations, and are looking to use the MAIRSS as a stepping stone for something higher. And we welcome that, and we help you think about how you can specialize in this degree, especially in your final semester as you get closer to electives and dissertation, to be able to earn a specialization within this degree. Because even within the broad parameters of IR and SS, there are a lot of specifics you need to go into in order to specialize. And our faculty here, outstanding scholars, only some of whom are here today, but we have a larger group of colleagues who teach in this MAIRSS. All of them are out here to help you and to support your learning needs. So let me bring in my colleagues now after these introductory remarks, and ask them for their views on MAIRSS, and many of them have also taught in the program, and generally on online education. Let me bring in my esteemed senior colleague, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, who teaches very core course in the very first semester of the MAIRSS. And let me ask him for his views, because he has now taught at least 3 or 4 cohorts, if I'm not wrong, 4 cohorts. And he has been interacting extensively with students in this degree program. And over to Ambassador Mohan Kumar. He was former Indian ambassador to France, and he's a specialist on trade negotiations and multilateralism, and also on India and Europe. So Ambassador Mohan Kumar, please come in.
Thank you very much, Professor Chaulia. Do I have 5 minutes, please?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So thank you, friends. I don't think I need to add very much to what Dean Professor Chaulia said about the course. But what I do want to say is that it's very hard to be any professional these days without understanding geopolitics. Secondly, without at least appreciating the impact of geopolitics on your business, on your enterprise, on the institution you're working for. And lastly, how to reduce geopolitical risk in the institutions you work for. This has now become an increasingly sought after profession. And I've spent 6 years as an academic after retiring from the Indian Foreign Service as an ambassador, as Dean Chaulia said. But in the last 6 years, I've seen a change. And the change is that increasingly, people who are graduating from the Jindal School of International Affairs, whether it is online or offline, tend to get hired even as geopolitical risk analysts, which means actually that different institutions are extremely concerned and interested in knowing how rapidly changing geopolitics impacts your institution, impacts your business, and in your case, impacts your professional advancement and your own employment prospects. So I would say that MAIRSS actually offers a very valuable way of adding to your skill set in understanding geopolitics. I myself do a course on diplomatic practice, and I would begin by saying that diplomatic practice is the foundation of international relations. So we are talking interactions between states and how states interact with each other. That's one. Second, what do diplomatic missions do? That is one module that I'm very keen for people to know. Unless you are a diplomat and unless you've worked in an embassy abroad, it's not immediately obvious to you what missions and what embassies do. For example, if you are an individual startup trader, it is important to know that every good embassy, every professional embassy has an economic commercial wing, which actually has a duty to assist you. But you should know what to expect from the economic and commercial wing of the embassy. Otherwise, you are lost. You can either take a view that government never helps people, or you can take a view that government does everything to help people. actually you should know what embassies therefore do. And that is extremely important. So I spent quite a bit of time on drawing a distinction between political diplomacy, economic diplomacy, and cultural diplomacy in my course. And most important of all, I think if you finish this course properly, and I've seen how this operates over the last 3-4 years, if you do all the courses, you should be able to do three things. One, you should be able to see red flags when they happen. So when something goes wrong in your region, in your geographical location where your institution or organization is located, you should be able to pick up the signs very quickly. And that is important in today's world. If you're doing business, if you're doing consultancy, no matter what you're doing, you need to be quick in picking up those red flags. Secondly, you should be able to understand the larger geopolitical trends that are going on. If you know, for example, that semiconductors are no longer going to be manufactured the way undergarments and shoes and watches are going to be manufactured in the future, that's very important, because there is a particular way in which textiles and garments and watches were manufactured as part of the globalization. But semiconductors, or for example, quantum computers or things like that, are not going to be, solar panels are not going to be manufactured on the basis of just low cost. There is going to be what is known as friend shoring, not offshoring, but friend shoring. So the second is, this course should be able to help you appreciate and understand supply chains which are changing. And if you're coming from companies, if you're coming from institutions, you need to know that. Finally, I think it's a matter of trying to gain skills which help you dot the I's and cross the T's, as we say. That something is going on between India and China today. Something is going on in Niger. Something is going on in Gabon. Something is going on in Ukraine. Is this going to impact the general state of the world, which in turn will impact institutions, organizations, and business? I think this is what this course will help you appreciate, because I have got so many of my wonderful colleagues. I'll stop here, Sreeram. Thank you very much for this opportunity. But I do want to emphasize what Dean Professor Chaulia already said. I wish there was a course like this when I was 30 years old, frankly. It doesn't matter whether you're in South Sudan or Ethiopia or Swaziland, as the Dean said. It's a great opportunity to interact with some of us, and I hope we will be able to answer questions and do justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ambassador Mohan Kumar. The crisis, the hotspots that he mentioned keep coming in the world news, especially those of you who are big followers of world news and who believe that you have a say and a voice and an opinion on it. Develop deeper knowledge and understanding of these hotspots. I think IRSS on Coursera is the best way to do it. And it's right on your laptops or desktops or phones. You can actually take the entire course wherever you are without having to move an inch. That's the great beauty of online learning. And this is where I think you can really benefit compared to earlier generations when we didn't have the internet or when we didn't have platforms like Coursera. This is really, really 21st century, third decade of 21st century stuff, cutting edge stuff. That's what you're getting through this program. And I really envy you, like Professor Mohan Kumar, that you have these opportunities which we, seniors never had when we were in our 20s or 30s or 40s. So let me now bring in my other esteemed former diplomat colleague, Ambassador Ravi Thapar. He has been India's ambassador to a number of countries as well, and a retired diplomat and a scholar who has been who's specializing on global South issues, on developing countries. There's so many of you from Africa who logged in today, and so many from developing parts of Asia and Latin America who take our program, who actually enroll in our degree program. And Ambassador Ravi Thapar specializes in the global South. And I think it's fair to say, Ambassador Thapar, that the internet is really opening the doors for a lot of students, especially from developing countries. And we, India itself being a developing country, for us to be able to offer this kind of a cutting edge degree program for global audiences, with we have almost 60 to 70 countries among our MAIRSS students represented in the classrooms, of different cohorts. And this is truly a revolutionary thing. And hopefully, this is something that will also empower the South. So, your thoughts on online education and degrees and what we are offering, Ambassador Thapar?
Thank you, Dean. I would join and reinforce the sentiments which have already been uttered in our very, very complex and difficult world today, which is highly globalized and where business and global supply chains are the preferred model, and where multilateralism is failing. I think even as just as a citizen and as not just as a student or professional, I would be very interested if I were living at the age of 30 plus or 25 plus in this complex world to know what is happening outside, because so many things can actually impact on our personal lives, our national security, terrorism incidents, what kind of deals we get, hydrocarbons in our exclusive zone, civil aviation, telecom, internet, privacy, artificial intelligence, people, electronic surveillance. So these are issues, climate change, of course. And like you mentioned, for global South countries, in fact, very, very important. I have touched on some of these aspects in a chapter which I just wrote on, the challenges, technology, economics, and climate change related challenges in post-COVID-19 for the global South countries, which was carried in a book on political economy of development by Springer. And the digital divide, in fact, is a very, very critical issue. If there is a semblance of internet infrastructure in some of our countries, which one hopes, this tool of providing all kinds of perspectives right down in your palm top, in your mobile is very, very useful. Regarding, I think, the other aspects, empowerment with information, focused information, political, multilateral, security-related, and especially economic. I give emphasis on economics because if the communities, cohorts are restless economically, it leads to social unrest. And my very strong, thoughts in this matter are that the global North needs to understand that if they want to do well, if their multinationals want to sell more goods and services, well, in the long term, they will have to empower the South, because it is the populous markets of the South which actually, give them the revenues. The population in northern countries is not very great, and beyond the point, they'll go into recession. So this was the point which was made long back, the interdependence between the North and the South, even by Willy Brandt. And according to me, if more money is not allocated, therefore, in developing basic infrastructure for the UN SDGs, for basic infrastructure, economic development of the global South, and this is estimated by UNDP to be about $3.7 to $4.5 trillion in every developing country in the world for basic infrastructure. If this kind of thing is not forthcoming, because sovereign debt is building up after COVID-19, there is a lot of expenditure which has been, which has been done during COVID. Infrastructure is extremely important. So if this kind of forthcoming attitude is not available by the North, and the southern countries, which are the majority today, say 140 of them out of 193, get into a state of economic deprivation, I think that it could also threaten the existing global world order. We've seen the Arab Spring. It became a social, political, economic disturbance. There could be bigger disturbances in the pipeline if we don't watch it. So understanding some of these perspectives, empowering the global South, making sure that we are able to articulate our point of view at world fora is very important. And this course, I think, addresses these issues very well. I am very happy to be one of the resource persons available. Every now and then I do come in. Although I teach formally, I'm teaching in-person courses on challenges faced by the Global South, economic divide, economic diplomacy, strategic relations between India, US, Australia, and Japan, and other such subjects. So it's a pleasure to be here. And I do hope that, our young professionals who are tuning in right now feel empowered, because that is what we are trying to do, empower you with all these, multitudinous perspectives, because you live in a very, very complex world. And if we allow this pandemonium to prevail, we will actually, it'll be a shortcut to disaster. So we do need to have more understanding, and we do need to find a voice in order to have more stability and peace. And the northern countries need to understand our point of view. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Thapar, Ambassador Thapar. Empowering our students, that is the goal, and that's what we're doing through this special collaboration with Coursera. Jindal Global University has paired up with Coursera and is the only university in the world, I repeat, in the whole world, that's offering this kind of degree program on Coursera. So here's your opportunity, students. Please go for the admissions application. We are still waiting for them. There are just a few days left. I'll bring in my colleagues who are running the program towards the end. But let me now invite my colleague, Professor Deepshika Shahi. She teaches along with Professor Sylvia Botega. They teach a course on international relations theory. Now, why is theory important? I'd like both my colleagues, Professors Shahi and Botega, to come in and talk about this one after the other, because many of you are working professionals and may not at the outset or from a distance be able to fully appreciate the importance of theory. And this is one of the first courses you do in your first semester in the MA IRSS. So over to Professor Shahi and then Professor Botega.
Welcome, everyone. I'll continue with where Ambassador Mohan Kumar and Ambassador Ravi Thapar left. They did present a viewpoint of a strategist, how it's important to have a formulaic understanding of how embassies or other international institutions function. Mohan Kumar, Professor Mohan Kumar talked about the emphasis that needs to be given to the political, economic, and cultural dimensions. He talked specifically in the context of supply chain and multilateral institutions in general. Ambassador Ravi Thapar also talked about how multilateralism seems to be failing, which means international institutions have not been able to work efficiently. For instance, recently we did witness how during the global pandemic, WHO was criticized for not working efficiently for different reasons. Similarly, in the context of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine crisis, we do see how UNSC has not been able to do much about bringing a halt to the ongoing warlike situation there. And more importantly, I think Ambassador Ravi Thapar talked about the need to give more importance to the viewpoints coming from the Global South, because the existing institutions, which seem to be failing to deliver or fulfill their objectives, are designed and wired according to Western-centric ways of looking at the reality of world politics. So what I do is I teach international relations theory, and in theory we go deeper into explaining why particular institutions work in particular way, and if they are not able to function properly, what's wrong in that kind of a rationale that backs up the rules and regulations of different international institutions. So in international relations theory, of course, we do focus on Western-centric theories like liberalism and realism, constructivism, and so on. And we do talk about critical viewpoints coming from the West, like postmodernism, feminism. We also talk about green theory and so on. Some Marxism-inspired theories are also discussed, like critical international relations theory. But recently, we do have theories coming from the Global South. And those theories have been clubbed under the label of global IR. So we do talk about Chinese theorizations, for example. If in real world politics, we see that China is a rising power which can give a tough fight to the US, then we need to know what is it that guides, that propels Chinese strategic thinking. For that, you need to know the theories that are built in China. And in China, we do see that the Chinese government works very closely with the Chinese theorists. That's not the case in India. Still, Indian conceptualizations and theorizations, especially Indian intellectual heritage, has been increasingly been tapped by the current government. So we do need to see the nexus, the interface between theory and practice. Otherwise, simply having a formulaic understanding of the functionings of institutions would not be sufficient. So our objective basically is to expand the way you think, perceive the reality of world politics, bringing in the global south viewpoints, as well as giving it a more philosophical, theoretical makeup, especially because we did see how Professor Mohan Kumar and Professor Ravi Thapar emphasized about how economic dimensions are essentially linked with social, cultural dimensions. So in social, cultural dimensions, there are different intellectual traditions, textual traditions that need to be excavated. Earlier, they were considered as denigrated, but increasingly, if you see the way Chinese government functions or the Indian government or Japanese government functions, they do bring in insights from their intellectual heritage. So the idea is to connect how these intellectual heritage, these different traditions, knowledge traditions, inform real life policy making procedures. So that's all that I would like to say. And we do have, for your information, we do have different centers focusing on different area studies and also different styles of theorizing. So as students, if you want, if you're keen, depending on your interest, you can join specific centers and be directly involved in different kinds of research works while writing your dissertation, or even if you're not choosing to write a dissertation, you can join and then see what are the scopes that are available in terms of writing research articles and getting them published in leading IR journals. We have been doing that successfully with previous lots of students who were enrolled in online courses. So I hope you would be interested in that. And I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Professor Shahi. Professor Botega, you want to come in? You also taught the IR theory and praxis course.
Yes, I thought that during the first time the international relations theories and most of my teaching was relating exactly on the Western perspective that, luckily, Dr. Shai now is integrating with the global international relations theories. But what are theories and why they are important? They are, give us a sort of, intelligible sense of the world's event, because nothing is only relating to the state action, but there is now a plethora of actors which are at sub-state level, transnational level, and their actions beyond the international institutions, international organizations, they are affecting our lives. Not only this, also we are trying to theorize, how we understand global events, global issues, and the level of theorization is important because it gives not just a perspective, but also, a way to find some solutions. For instance, if you are focusing on liberalism or liberal institutionalism, you really believe that the international organization can make a change, can have an impact on the world's event and our individual state events, increasing cooperation. If you are instead on the opposite side, a more realist, you believe and you think that the world is inherently negative, evil, and the struggle for power is always there, even the solutions sometimes are seen at this level of understanding. So there are theories, for instance, like post-structuralism, who focus on the level of the importance of the discursive representation of the event, how we talk about international politics, and the words we use. We can see the media, how they represent events. They can somehow also shape some form of solution or outcome or consequences. So having a theoretical mindset helps you not just to have a more clear mind how to proceed. If you are an analyst, if you are a student who are just who wants to enter the work the job world, but if you are also an analyst, a journalist, a practitioner in an international organization, I think that even you have a sort of perspective, a point of view, and obviously, this is a master in which we request students to interact with us, to bring their own perspective, their own experiences. You come from all over the world, and obviously, many issues, I'm sure, they affect your areas, your region. And so if you can see from the core courses that we present, international relations, but also diplomatic practice, maritime security, intelligence, wars, weapon, terrorism, foreign policies of the Middle East, middle and small powers, law and ethics of international relations. So we present a course in which we try to understand the conflicts, we try to find the solution through negotiation, diplomacy, but we don't stay at the state level. We try to understand how the individual, the groups, the regional organizations, for instance, non-state groups like NGOs or international organizations themselves can, help finding solution to this kind of conflict, which are increasing in every kind of field because, the global issues are changing, the environmental issues are changing the same meaning that we give to the term security. For instance, security is generally conceived in an orthodox manner at state level as military material capabilities of overcoming another state's force. But now the terms of security has changed, and also the policies of the international organization of states and other actors needs to change for bringing solutions. So it's a very interesting master, and which brings international relations, global issues, but specifically focused on the topic of security, which is affecting the individuals, ourselves, where we live. It can be economic security, environmental security, humanitarian security, any kind of security which has now more wider meaning. So, through the core courses and the amazing list of elective courses that you can choose among, you can have, I'm sure, an understanding of the world's event, and also what can you do in this world to improve it. Okay, so this is my short, because Professor Shahi, I'm very happy that she brought about the importance of bringing global South theories. We have seen now these days, we have G20 in India, we have had BRICS in South Africa, and we need to understand why these groupings are there. It means on the one side that international institutions, Western-centered, are somehow not responding to the needs of the global South. So finally, the global South is coming there, is organizing themselves, proposing new solutions with their own institution. Look at the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, for instance. So it's a response to some Western-based interest, maybe. So what we propose here in this master is also a very critical approach to the world we have lived in, to the theories, to the concept, to the books themselves that we have studied until now. So we need to foster this change, and I think that with this new vision from the global South, finally we can propose something very original.
Thank you, Professor Batega. Let me now bring in my colleague, Professor Shweta Sen. She has also been teaching in this course. She looks at peace and war and conflicts, including in Africa. We have a large number of students from Africa, always traditionally, and we welcome them very much. Over to you, Professor Sen. What do you think about this program, and why should students take it?
Thank you, Dr. Chaulia. First of all, welcome. Second, I want to talk about my course and how it is related to the overall structure of this program. So till now, all the speakers here talked about how states, international organization, actors, political actors have been behaving or have behaved. But in my course, which is Law and Ethics and International Relations, I'm going to talk about how they should behave. So there are two interdependent questions that I'm going to talk about, that I'm going to focus on in this course. First, can we accept states or international organizations or any political actors, to be honest, to act in an ethical way when they are presented, when they are in midst of a very complex world and often violent world. And second, if we expect them to behave in an ethical manner, what kind of conditions, criteria should we have for them? So basically, I'm going to focus on two parts. One is the theoretical part, where we are going to talk about the theory, the academic stuff, where what realism thinks about morality, what realism thinks about peace, what peace should look like, what justice should look like, what state should behave in a manner, what kind of manner the state should behave in. And the second part is more practice oriented approach, where we are going to look at different issues, for example, irregular warfare, for example, torture, for example, drone, etc. And we are going to explain this issue through this ethical paradigm or ethical theoretical paradigm. So one thing that I think that is very important in this course structure is that we are not only talking about academic theoretical understanding of the subject, we are also looking at it from a practice oriented point of view. So for example, in my course, I have a bunch of projects where students will look at real life scenarios and come up with policies based on their ethical understanding of how the world should operate. So in this way, I think through my course and through other courses also, we are trying to marry this academic world with the practice oriented world. We are trying to enable policymakers. We are trying to make them understand how policymakers should work and what kind of criteria they should look for while they are thinking about a particular humanitarian or political issues. So that's about it. And I hope you enjoy this course, and specifically the core courses and the elective courses that we have on conflict. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Professor Sen. Yes, well said. We indeed need to look at the the midpoint between theory and praxis. That's what we try to offer in this program. And I tell you, students, if it's a systematic way of learning about the world, it's not just scanning the headlines on the BBC or Al Jazeera. This is something much bigger that we're doing. It's a lifelong training that will stay with you and will not only benefit you practically with your career, but intellectually raise the level of understanding and analysis. Let me now bring in my colleague, Professor Pankaj Jha. Professor Pankaj Jha teaches two courses in the MA IRSS, including a very interesting one on war and weapons and intelligence and other subjects. So he is a specialist in hard security and in power politics. So let me bring in Professor Pankaj Jha. He has worked in India's National Security Council Secretariat before, and is a well-regarded scholar on strategic issues. Over to you, Professor Jha.
Thank you, Professor Chaulia, and thank you all my colleagues to joining at this juncture. When I have worked in different institutions, one of the things which I learned over a period of time is to how to bring about the actual both applied mass as well as academic mass when you're writing a short paper or a brief or a short summary for the highest echelons of power. Now they won't say that we don't have that kind of time. If you can bring it, what exactly we need to do, what exactly has happened, and how we can really cater to it in the future, even if you can be wrong. So that kind of acumen I found that which is most required, because it brings about a lot of businesses in terms of consultancy, risk analysis, and all those things, which is now gaining much more prominence. More importantly, when you look into intelligence, it was seen as a primarily a completely hidden sort of an area. But we do have certain open source intelligence where you scan media, you scan TV and all those things. With new kind of gadgetry and technology which is coming into being, I think a lot of information which really trickles down to a human's mind needs to be also evaluated in a more critical way. In this course, which was devised primarily to address these critical thinking, critical analysis, and you should have a fine eye to understand how the dots join together, because you might be missing that wild vector, the wild factor, which might not be seen by anybody. And this might be the more core issue which might be really hinging on it. Very recently I came across a few of the things that many of the countries in the world, 2, 3, I personally know, do have rare earth minerals, and they are completely hiding it because they believe there will be some kind of a Chinese scampering which might be happening if they come to know that these countries have rare earth minerals, because Chinese monopoly will be threatened. So these kind of tactics are increasingly being used by the countries. We need to look into how these are really shaping up and how it is applicable. In the case of intelligence, war, and weapons, how weapons are critical, and war weapons and the technologies, particularly disruptive technologies, are gaining more strength. In terms of terrorism as well, you can find various ways that terrorism has evolved over a period of time, and how we need to understand this from fine eyes, not only from the point of view of human rights, not only from the point of view of national security, but also from the legislative practices, the legal paraphernalia which is existing. Because if you evaluate every country, they have different legal, provisions with regard to a person who has committed a crime or a terrorism. So therefore, this course is much more minute in detail. I would say it's a micro analysis of everything that you are learning in the larger global politics and how they impact the larger scenarios. In fact, it is a wonderful course which brings about theory and applications, particularly the applied side of it, together to give you a more robust understanding, I would say a critical understanding of things. And this is why we are here to bring about some kind of a credibility to what you do, some kind of an understanding of what you do, and you feel proud about it. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Jha. Yes, hard security does matter, especially it's becoming a more dangerous world. So that's one more reason why you should take this course, because the era of pure liberal globalization is over, and we are now far more divided. And so understanding conflict and competition, strategic competition, is very important. That's why we designed this course. Now, last but not least, let me bring in my colleague Rita Lorbo. Professor Lorbo is from Nigeria, and she teaches in our school here in India, and is a specialist on humanitarian and human rights issues and also African studies. Let me bring her in. Professor Lorbo, we have a lot of students from Africa, not just in this webinar, but generally who enroll in our MA IRSS program, because one, it's affordable, and two, they're looking for these kind of options to enhance their career prospects. So I'd like you to address them in particular and talk about the benefits of doing this kind of online master's degree. Over to you, Professor Lorbo.
Thank you, Mr. Dean, Professor Sreeram Chaulia, and my respected senior colleagues who had spoken before. Dear students, I would like to introduce you to some of the courses that I teach here. I try to bring in human security aspect of the core security that we are addressing at the regional and international level, looking at what is happening post the Holocaust and Rwanda, as well as what happened in apartheid South Africa. The dimension and debate about the core aspect of security began to change. And in this aspect, we began to look at the identity issues, what rather should bring us together that is putting us apart. The structures that we have put in place in terms of state structures that are supposed to serve, and how these structures are embedded with issues that are very harmful to the individual, to community, as well as the state and regional stability. So addressing these issues are not just looking at the weapons, looking at the things that constitute fear to us, looking at things that address or assert our dignity and constitute divisive rhetorics amongst human community. It's critical and at the center of national security and stability. So we try to bring in different perspectives. What are the issues that constitute greater security threats to society? How do these issues begin? What are the channels through which such fears, such insecurities and instabilities are communicated across groups across communities, states, and internationally. So when we begin to look at these issues, we equip our students with analytical skills to look first from the issues that divide us, from the interests that we hold dear, the policies that we develop. When we are articulating these policies, who do we have in mind? Whom are we putting outside the cycle? Who are the outsiders? Who are the insiders? And how does this play around security issues? So in this, we look at issues that Howard Becker, for example, raised about the insider-outsider group victimizations based on identity and inner cycles within our very communities. It could be the same group A and B, but then what are the things that are putting us asunder? So we look at them as opposed to looking at the weapons, looking at the guns. And when we are even talking about humanitarian action, we begin to ask, whose interests are we pursuing? Whose interests are we serving when we are talking about humanitarian action? Then we want to take a departure from the core humanitarian action to ensure that it is not just about spoon feeding the population. It is not just about creating conditions of dependency culture amongst a people who desperately need our support to exit, need the world support to exit issues that threaten them rather than build them. So these are the areas that we cover first in human security, trying to bring at the intersection of the state, of the individual, and the international community, what threatens us. We want to look at this first before we look at what the guns are saying. Then when we move on to humanitarian action, where we are looking at issues of emergencies, including human and disasters, we want to look at how at various levels, from the state to the international level, what are the debates that are constituting humanitarian action? What are the debates that we are advancing to help this population and reduce incidences that create insecurity rather than empower them and take them out of dependencies that are the root causes of state and international security.
Thank you, Professor Lobo. Yes, so human security is also important, folks, not just national security or state security. We're going to be covering all these things once you enroll in the program. This is just a sampling or a little teaser for all of you. Let me now bring in our program administrators for the MA IRSS, Professor Devendra Sahu and Professor Bhavika Behel. Now, they are in charge of the MA IRSS. They are running and administering the program, and they are the ones who have been posting on the chat box the coordinates which you need to contact for if you have any issues with the application process. Let me bring in Professor Sahu and then Professor Behel briefly. If you have a message for students, please.
Thank you, Professor Chaulia. We have almost covered the base today. This is generally the questions we get in the online at jgu.edu.in. We have answered most of the questions. I just want to highlight two most liked features of the program. One, the program gives you, wide arrays of courses that we discussed, gives you a global perspective with its faculty drawn from internationally, from diverse background, and instructors being the same JGU faculty who teach in campus. That is what is most liked about. Then second is the flexibility. What we have to offer is weekly self-paced coursework. The students can create schedule that works around commitments like employment, hobbies, family, etc. Further, the program is, of course, designed for 2 years, but it is also curated for working professionals who need more time to complete the program by taking up to 3 years without any additional cost. With this, I want to reiterate here, the application process is very simple, uploading few documents and 2 essays. One, how your career aspiration is in sync with the MAIRSS program, and second is significant global event. And we do not charge any application fee, as Dean has already mentioned. So few dates to remember: the application is open till September 8th, and admission will be open for students with offer letter for another few days, maybe till 10th September. You can write to us at online@jzu.edu.in for any more information or concern you might have. We'll get back to you. So hope to see you in the upcoming cohort. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bahal. Last word to you.
Hello, everybody. Most of the professors here have already explained to you that how the program, what they're going to teach in the program. But I feel what makes this program unique is not just the rich content, but also the pedagogy that these professors have evolved to teach the program. So the primary method of delivery to you is through videos, which breaks down really complex concepts into simpler, easier ideas that you can conveniently listen to anytime. The span of a video is roughly 8 to 10 minutes. And these videos are not just passive, they're extremely interactive also, because they call upon you to answer questions. They have prompts that cause you to reflect and think about things. So you're not just a passive learner, you actively go ahead and engage with these videos as well. But we also have a lot of synchronous activities, such as in sync with the tutor sessions, or you have office hours and live sessions where you actively engage. So it's not just a program where you're sitting in a room in a corner learning. You're actually a part of the community, and you can engage with that community whenever you want to through these various methods that we have developed. So hoping to see more of you there in this program.
Thank you so much. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, everyone. We are almost out of time. There are lots of questions, but I just want to take up one or two and close the session. One student has asked, can we predict events and control events by studying MA-IRSS, or generally by studying international relations? And to that, I will only say that, we are all humble social scientists, and we know that there are limits to how much we can see what is going to happen. Now, I'll just give you a small example. I had predicted about 5 weeks ago in a newspaper column that Evgeny Prigozhin will be eliminated after the revolt of Wagner in Russia. And it has happened now, right? But that's like a very minor thing, because we just study the regimes and we know what kind of regimes are there and what is likely to happen in these kind of authoritarian states. But none of our tribe could predict most of us could not predict the collapse of the Soviet Union, the biggest geopolitical, earthquake of the second half of the 20th century. None of us could do it. There were people who were writing journal articles and theorizing about how to face the Soviet challenge in the 21st century, around 1990, 1991. And then, when it collapsed, then we started explaining the things ex post facto. Likewise, Arab Spring, 2011, very few saw it coming. They were all saying these are very stable regimes. Egypt, Tunisia, most of these Middle Eastern countries, Libya, stable, resilient dictatorships. Nothing's going to change. Well, maybe in hindsight, actually very less change. But at the time, regimes were toppled and there was a huge upheaval. So we can't really predict, but we can understand these things better. And frankly, understanding is the beginning to find solutions. Most of the time, you find that the reason we are not succeeding with solutions to big problems because our understanding itself is shallow or superficial. So that's why we should take this degree at that's probably the number one justification, apart from all the practical benefits that we've been talking about with your careers and with your higher education. I think deeper, systemic, and very rigorous understanding using social science methods and theories and lenses, that's what you and practitioner experience, that's what we offer here. There are many other courses about scholarships and such things. Folks, this program is the most affordable online master's degree in international affairs in the whole world. I repeat, in the whole world. There are some standalone master's degrees, offered directly by universities, not via Coursera, but they are priced at 40,000 US dollars approximately, many of them. So this is truly accessible and affordable, and we believe that each one of you can muster these resources to be able to study for us. There are also questions about different regions of the world and finding solutions and crisis. We'll have to reserve our comments on that, because this webinar was mainly to acquaint you with the advantages and the benefits of studying the MA-IRSS. For the discussions on global issues, you have to enroll in the degree program, okay? And then only you can really get the insight that our faculty have. I wanted to mention that there are a few MOOCs, massive open online courses on Coursera, offered by our university, including my own MOOC on power and foreign policy. Check them out. Those are like little snippets, and they can help you get an understanding, at least a basic understanding. And then if you enroll in the degree, you get the full thing. So folks, please, we are waiting for your applications. We are waiting for your interest, expressions of interest. Please contact our colleagues at the numbers and the email addresses that have been given in the chat box. And hurry up, we are almost out of time, because the new semester, the new academic year begins September 1st. And we'd like you to enroll so that you can really become part of this elite group. And I can tell you, your classmates are going to be from so many countries of the world. You would have never experienced such a global peer group ever in your careers. And we as teachers, we enjoy this too, because we have never had such a global classroom either, with students from 40 or 50 different countries, all in one group. So you also do a lot of peer-to-peer learning while doing assignments and other things. It's not just from us. So we really are eager to welcome you into the program. So looking forward to receiving your applications. If you have questions, please contact us at these links. I want to thank my colleagues for sparing their valuable time and insights. And good luck to you, dear students. And we hope to see you in our classroom soon. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.